Hello, my Built for 1000 Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. If not, I hope it gets better from here. We're back with another Coffeehouse Crime. This one's titled Cops Discover Model Husband's Horrifying Secret. Right? Cops discover model. Okay. Cops discover model husband's horrifying secret in garage. Man, that was a lot of shit. So was the husband the model, or was... I don't know. I'm confused. Oh well. Let's go ahead and get into today's story. Go ahead, turn them lights down low, put on something comfy, couple something special. Let's get confused. I don't know who the model is.
She was hailed as one of Switzerland's
She's the model. We figured it out. It was fast. We didn't take no time at all. We're geniuses.
most attractive women in the Miss Swiss contest of 2007. But fast forward 17 years, and Kristina Joksimovic was in the spotlight once again, but for the most sad and tragic of reasons. It all began with a phone call from her children's kindergarten. Unfortunately, Kristina had failed to pick them up at the end of the day. Naturally, her parents were deeply concerned by her sudden disappearance. But her husband, well, he didn't seem to care at all. Without her missing for longer than 24 hours, the authorities would actually refuse to intervene. And so, taking matters into his own hands, Kristina's father began to rummage around the family home, and what he found was utterly horrifying. So, what was his sudden discovery? What else was Kristina Joksimovic known for? And what was her husband up to throughout all of this time?
I don't know.
Good morning, good
That's why
afternoon,
we're here,
or
though.
good evening, folks, and welcome back to Coffeehouse Crime. My name is Adrian, and today we're traveling to Switzerland to look at a very recent case. Now, I've had a lot of suggestions to cover this case, so of course, you ask and I deliver. Today, we're exploring the life of Kristina Joksimovic and her husband Marc Rieben and the tragedy that fell between them. By the way, if you like true crime or dark stories, then please do consider subscribing, it really does help me out. And now, with that out the way, please grab yourself a coffee and let's
Hook the dude up,
while we
bruh.
investigate. This is the case of
Show 'em some
Kristina
love.
Joksimovic.
And if you haven't already, think about going to the B5 Nation store and getting yourself a B5
Guten
cup.
Morgen an alle meine Schweizer
Got some
Zuschauer.
amazing shit, bro.
And for the rest of you, welcome to Switzerland. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the first time here on Coffeehouse Crime. So, before we dig into the gory details of this case, let's dive into this fantastic country. Known as one of Europe's central mountainous countries, Switzerland is home to many lakes, villages, and high peaks of the Alps.
That's beautiful.
Quite honestly, it feels like there are more ski resorts and hiking trails than actual people themselves. But speaking of, around 9 million people call this place home, with Bern as its
Damn.
capital and Zurich as its most populated city. Travel about 1 hour north of Bern or an hour west of Zurich, and you'll find a city right on the border between France, Germany, and Switzerland. And this quaint little town is named Basel. Not to be confused with basil, which is a delicious herb found in pasta sauce and salads. Basel is quintessentially Swiss. It's a cute little place to visit, with Gothic cathedrals, red
Basel?
sandstone buildings, and the River Rhine flowing right through it. I know we say this quite regularly, but you would not think a sinister thing could ever happen in a place so jolly. Well, sadly, our case today is about
Shit,
to
you'd
blow
be surprised,
all
bro.
that charm away.
You can't trust nothing no more.
Found
I'll watch
in the
Mr. Ballin',
southwest
I
of
know.
Basel lies a small municipality named Binningen. And on the night of February the 13th, 2024, an excessively gruesome discovery left the entire city absolutely horrified. It all began one day prior, when two grandparents received a phone call from their granddaughter's kindergarten. Apparently, their daughter, Kristina, who was actually an ex-model and current entrepreneur, had failed to pick her children up after school, which was very odd because she loved her children and was a very responsible mother. To make
Hell
things
yeah.
even more strange,
what
they
it
had a
should be.
father who was also failing to respond to phone calls. So, what was going on? Well, after picking up the grandchildren from kindergarten, they then returned to the family home where they found Marc, but not his wife Kristina. And to make things even more strange, he seemed totally unfazed by it. Now, Marc claimed that he had no
Maybe
idea
they
what
just hated
Kristina
each
was,
other.
and instead offered her father a drink. She does this all the time, he said. She'll be back later. For several hours, he appeared as if nothing had happened and actually seemed quite jolly. He spoke to her parents as if it was just another day. before eventually saying goodnight to the kids and then bidding farewell to her parents. However, Kristina's father was not the type to just simply walk away and leave things as they are, and he was deeply concerned about his daughter. So, instead of just walking out the property and going home, he decided to thoroughly snoop around instead. You see, Kristina and Marc lived in an upscale home in Binningen. It was quite a large property with many nooks and crannies. So it did take her father quite a while to go from room to room and then eventually outside.
Excuse me.
Eventually, he made his way down to the laundry room, which could be found in the basement at the end of the property. As you can see from this picture, it was more like an isolated bunker than anything else, with thick concrete walls
weird.
and a steel sheet door to keep it shut.
That's a laundry
When he
room?
eventually made his way inside, he noticed several large bin bags in the corner of the room, with, concerningly, what appeared to be blonde hair sticking out of one of them. Curiosity got the better of him.
Yeah, he
and
probably
could
shouldn't have.
probably guess what was inside.
His data.
Tragically, it was the decapitated head of his daughter. After opening the bag and realizing what had happened, he ran out of the property screaming for help. Shortly after this,
Shit, I
a
would've
phone call
passed
from a
out.
distraught father was made to the police,
Then
claiming
would've
that
found
a
the
woman
husband,
had
ripped his
been
dick off and
brutally
beamed him to death
murdered and
with it.
mutilated. Doing their due diligence, officers arrived at the home shortly after.
Easy.
It was pretty clear from the outset, Kristina Joksimovic was dead, and it was
Yes, once again, I am sorry if I do yawn a lot. Oh, it's a long story. I'll get to cover it more at a later date. Once I know everything is, but hard. Oh,
also
we getting there though. We getting there.
quite clear that her husband was likely to blame. It was now time for her daughters, parents, and the rest of her family and friends to grieve to inconsolable levels. And the rest of the world desperately wanted to know what happened. So, with this terrible news, let's dive into the lives of
Let's do
Kristina
it.
and Marc
I'm ready.
and what led to her tragic end.
That piece of shit.
So,
He did
beginning with Kristina, she is somewhat of a special person and definitely different from your average 9-to-5 worker. In fact, I would go as far to say that she has one of the most exciting careers I've come across. I mean, just the journey she's been through to go from one success to an entirely different type of success is very inspiring. Although she was a Binningen native and spent most of her life in Bern, she actually had deep Serbian roots through her parents. Moving into her young adulthood, Kristina would win the Miss Northwest Switzerland pageant in the year 2003, before going on to becoming a finalist in the Miss Switzerland competition in 2007. In addition to this,
me.
she also won several other accolades in the industry, so it is
Oh,
safe
yeah.
to say that she was extraordinarily conventionally attractive. However, her talents did not stop there. Oh no. In fact, they would come alight after ending her time on the catwalk. In the wake of her modeling career, once she got a little bit older, Kristina opened up her own business. Here, she would train other women to model for well-known fashion shows and catwalks. And in addition to this, she would also help newcomers prepare for contests and castings. But this was
That's
not
nice.
quite enough for Kristina, and she was quite the multifaceted person too, working as an IT consultant for Google while her business slowly started to pick up. Her business Instagram
Hell
page,
yeah.
named Catwalk Coach, labels her as a high heels expert, motivator, entrepreneur, and mum. She provided one-to-one coaching for her clients and led workshops for heels. Another company which promotes confidence, femininity, and body positivity in the Basel area. Over on her website, she described herself as a model, Google recruiter, Miss Switzerland finalist, Miss Switzerland manager, and catwalk coach. And her customers included very big names such as Mercedes-Benz, HP, and Philips.
Damn.
In short, she had switched from modeling to becoming her very own catwalk coach, inspiring the next generation of models right down the runway. Among other things, she would also train Miss Switzerland candidates to follow in her footsteps, and she would also train other businesswomen to walk confidently in their professional or private lives. She was a strong woman who dedicated her life to empowering other women.
So
But
she
model,
taught people how to walk,
entrepreneur, and
basically?
consultant aside, Kristina was also a wife and a proud mother
That's
of
pretty
two
cool.
young daughters. They were Vera Claire, born in 2020, and Kira Sophie, born in
So basically, she is helping people find like confidence in their step or something. Like, I get what she was doing with like the modeling and stuff like that, but well, I get the modeling, I get the catwalk, the runway stuff, but what was there more to it? Like, was she also doing like, well, walk like this, it helps show more confidence. Walk like this, it'll show this, or was that a thing that she did as well? I just walk fast. I walk, I walk fast. That's all I got going for me. I'm a fast walker. I walk slightly faster than, or yeah, I walk slightly faster than some people, but I walk slightly slower than other people. So yeah.
2021, and from the many photos you can find of them online, you can see just how much she loved her family. Kristina was a good and friendly woman who was just as kind-hearted as she was beautiful. And these aren't the words of my own, but her many friends. But what would I say about her? Well, from the outside, Kristina looked confident, intelligent, and disciplined, and
Okay.
extraordinarily loyal to her family. Quite honestly, I can see why so many people liked her. Now, although many of us see Kristina in a very positive light, the same thing could not be said for her husband. I mean, don't get me wrong, he did have friends, and Kristina did love him, but many friends around her saw him as a bad-tempered brat. So, let's talk about Marc, and how he then came into Kristina's life, and, unfortunately, how he would end it
Bad-tempered
too.
brat. Someone should have brought him
Aged
down a peg or
41,
two.
Marc Rieben is 3 years older than Kristina. He was a well-respected change leader in the Basel area, with thanks to his father, who essentially set him up for life as a millionaire and lawyer. Prior to becoming a change leader, he was an officer in the Swiss Air Force, studied at the University of St. Gallen, and apparently went on to study at Stanford University too. In addition to this, Marc
Damn.
also ran his own business in lean agile and continuous improvement. Skills that are alarmingly close to what I used to do before I sold my soul to YouTube. On his LinkedIn profile,
Right.
he describes himself
I
as
can't
a
wait till I sell my soul
purpose-driven
to YouTube.
entrepreneur. According to him, life is all about people and sharing. I'm guessing he meant killing people and sharing misery, but he failed to be more specific about that part. Even going by his own Twitter posts, Marc was a very dull person. His life was boring as hell, further perpetuated by the corporate mud that he was stuck in. Anyway, it was in the year 2017 that Marc and Kristina finally got married. Apparently, their wedding was beautiful, up in a castle overlooking several hills and
That is-
fields.
that
In addition
just
to
looks
this,
beautiful.
and as we already know, they would go on to have 2 beautiful daughters. Everything seemed perfect.
I have
from the
all boys.
outside. Or at least I should say from
They was
social
cute when they was
media.
little.
You
If
can
they got
find
older,
many
then
pictures
now
of
they
them
just smell
online
weird
where
and they look
seem
fugly.
absolutely smitten with each other. Picnics in the park, cuddling on the floor, candid selfies at home, and holidays abroad. What a beautiful life, right? But things were not so simple on the other side of that door. Kristina's friends were not impressed by his behavior whatsoever, especially in the months before her death. One of her friends recalled them being in a crisis for several months. Apparently, the police were even called out to their property after things became violent. And through witness statements and testimonies, another friend said, quote, Marc developed obsessive and compulsive tendencies when it came to his children. They were his perfect project, and Kristina was in the way. He always thought that he was something better, and this came across perfectly on their children's birthdays, when he separated their families and friends to have his side and her side over separately. But very little did Kristina or her family know that he had a much nastier side to him too. And we know this to be true because it all comes from testimonies made by his former partner. Marc's former partner told the prosecution that, apparently, he used massive violence against her on several occasions. In fact, this was right up until April of 2016, which was just before he met Kristina. Listing a couple of his crimes, he apparently drove over her foot with his car during one of his fits of rage.
Hey,
and
my
he
old
would
lady
even
ran over my
threaten
foot
to
with a
throw
car.
her out of the vehicle on the drive.
No lie. Kids was in the back seat. We went to Kroger. It was at that time we was staying in Kentucky. Yeah. We was staying in Kentucky at the time. We go across the bridge, go down, turn right into Kroger's and all that good stuff. And we at the time did not live far from Kroger, so the kids was in the back. I told her, I was like, I'm just going to run in, grab the stuff we need, and I'm just going to walk back because we didn't need a whole lot. So just go ahead and take the kids on over, get them ready because they was tired, they was cranky, and it had been a long day. I get out the car and I go around the front so she can see me. And as I'm like walking to go in front of the car, she just decides to just take off and run over my foot. And like I'm sitting there and it's like, come on, keep going. Like, don't just stop here because you're on my foot. Luckily, I wear steel-toe boots like all the time. And it was hilarious. The dude, the night manager of Kroger came running out. He was like, we got everything on tape. Would you like, to call the police, press charges and stuff? I was like, no, it's all right, man. That's just my old lady. He was like, oh shit, what'd you do to piss her off? I'm like, you mean today? I mean, yeah, how long you got, bro? I'm a fucking idiot. I piss off a lot of people.
Home. In addition to this, he also allegedly grabbed his former partner by the neck and then pushed her hard against the wall. It is alleged that he sometimes lost his control during their arguments, which caused him to hit or even strangle her. And apparently, she was not his first casualty either. Without knowing any of this, Kristina shared many beautiful photos online, believing that Marc was a perfect husband who would never hurt a soul. She described her husband as my rock in older photos, and shared her pride as she announced that she was pregnant with his second child. And only months before her tragic death, she shared a photo of her family captioned "My world." It is a tragedy that he would end it. Okay, so although we do technically have to assume that Marc is innocent until proven guilty, the evidence and information available, coupled with the testimonies made against him, do pretty much solidify that he was not a good person. But what really happened to Kristina? Well, with this case not yet through the courts, we do have to take everything with a slight pinch of salt. But this is what we know so far.
Oh, we will definitely be having an update video on this, won't we?
He didn't murder Kristina at all. In fact, he would say that he found her in the laundry room and then dismembered her in a panic. But after realizing that he could not weave his way through forensic evidence, he admitted to murdering her instead, claiming it was self-defense. Apparently, she ran towards him with a knife. However, analysis conducted by medical and forensic experts would contradict these claims.
Thank God.
Instead, they determined that, based on the marks on her neck, that she was strangled instead. And believe me, that was not everything that the autopsy report would confirm. The autopsy report had a lot more troubling information. It further concluded that Kristina was decapitated with a jigsaw, a knife, and a pair of garden shears. Marc also broke her hip joints out of their sockets and would go on to conduct disarticulation, which is the removal of bone from its joints. Investigators also found out that, while cutting up her body, he played multiple YouTube videos on his iPhone. But interestingly enough, he refuses to give officers the passcode, meaning that he very likely has something to hide. He would also carefully remove her womb, which was the only organ to be cut out of her torso. And this deliberate mutilation is believed to indicate that Marc probably has a mental disorder, or at least according to the court. Marc then forced some of his wife's body parts into a powerful industrial blender, in which those parts were then pureed. Other parts that didn't make it in there were instead dissolved in a chemical solution. The parts that did not receive either of those two despicable fates would instead express signs of blunt force trauma before her death. This included cuts on her cheek, under her eyebrow and nose, several bruises on her right lower leg and foot, and further bruising on her shoulder blades and the back of her head. And upon closer examination, her head revealed that some of her hair was ripped out. It is also noted that the residue and evidence left behind at the crime scene indicated that most of his horrible actions were committed inside that laundry room. All in all,
no shit, it's like a fucking bomb shelter, bro.
To his wife's dead body. Marc then continued as if nothing had happened. Not only that, but he stared at her father right in the eye and shared a drink with him and told him that she would eventually return. But as we know, her father was just as persistent as he was worried, and after thoroughly searching the house, he he would unfortunately come across his
Man,
own
this
daughter's
story's
head,
giving
which
me
really
fucking
does have
chills,
to be
bro.
the worst thing you could find.
That's just
if you
fucking
think about
disgusting.
it. In the time between finding his daughter's head and the
Man, if you got a problem with your old fucking lady, or you got a problem with your old man, whichever the case may be, get the fuck out. Don't kill the other motherfucker. They ain't gonna do shit but ruin your life, end of life, ruin your kids, everything else. Just fucking leave. Get divorced. Pay your fucking child support. Go on about your fucking day. God. The amount of work that this piece of shit put towards murdering her and doing all the other stupid shit, he could have put towards, I don't know, getting a lawyer, just going and getting a divorce and being like, fuck it, I'm done, I'm out, I'm over, deuces, peace. You do you, I'll do me, never shall the two meet again. You don't have to fucking kill your significant other just to be rid of them. It's pretty fucking simple. New phone, who this?
police arriving, he would actually confront Marc about the discovery, who, by the way, seemed absolutely gobsmacked, likely because he was not expecting it to be found.
I love that
believe it
word.
or not, but while being
Gobsmacked is literally like one of my favoriteest words ever. I love it.
arrested and then
I
led
don't know
away,
why.
he would even tell her parents that they had overstayed their welcome, and that things would have been easier if they did not stumble across her remains. What precisely drove Marc to murder his wife still remains a mystery, and without any licensed expert weighing in on this, we expose ourselves to too much
I'll weigh in on it. He's a
interpretation.
piece of shit.
Nevertheless, we do at least
Fucking
have
put him
a
in prison
kind
so
of
he can get in the
confession,
butt
and
for the
we
rest of
also
his
know
life.
that
He's fucking
from
trash.
Kristina's friends that she did actually intend to divorce him. So, allegedly, apparently, maybe, this is what pushed this psycho over the edge. Surprisingly, Marc would appeal.
I mean, I could see that. Like, if he's already unstable and he didn't want the divorce, she did, that she's gonna get the kids because the dude don't deserve shit. But she'd get the kids, he'd have to pay child support, become a weekend dad. Like, some people take that really hard. It's like, well, that's the end of it. Like, I'm only going to be a dad on the weekends. I won't be a dad every day. The person I love, is no longer there. That they fell in love with me, or whatever the case may be. Whatever. The implications of a divorce are quite simple. People grow apart. People go down different paths. Shit happens. You can get together, be together 20 years, look at each other and be like, this ain't working. It happens. Fuck it. Who cares? Some people get together, realize that they don't belong together, and then just stay together for their kids or whatever the case may be. I'm not saying that that's right. I'm not saying that that's wrong. That's their choice. But there's so much brutality to her death that I could see that being the reason. Like, he would be so angry that the kids are getting taken away from him. He's going to have to pay child support, whatever the case may be. He's losing his old lady, probably his house. He's going to have to, try to start all over. And he don't want to deal with that. Let me kill her. I'm going to probably get some life insurance. I'm going to get to get my kids. I'm going to get to keep my house. Fuck this bitch. I'm going to kill her. And that's what he did. Like, I guarantee it, because it's brutal. Like, beat down, hair ripped out. Her fucking womb. Her womb. Why would you cut that out? What the fuck is this? It's like some Jack the Ripper bullshit. The dude's fucked. Shoot him in his head, put him out of his fucking misery, put him in prison for the rest of his life so some big old dude with a massive can just rest of his fucking life.
For his release from custody at the Basel Landschaft Coercive Measures Court shortly after being arrested. After being rejected from this, he then went on to the Cantonal Court, who also showed him the door. Finally, he then appealed to the Federal Court, which, no surprise, also dismissed him. According to the status of the
Little bitch.
investigation, Marc apparently displays concrete indications of some sort of mental illness. He also shows a conspicuously elevated level of criminal energy, severe lack of empathy, and cold.
So dude's a fucking psychopath. Got you. Yeah, he's probably going to fucking either get by with it, get away with it, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. He's gonna get very little time or be put in like a mental place or some stupid bullshit. I want him in a place where they have the biggest peens and they just beat him to death with their peens every day inside of his boom hole.
Bloodedness. They would also claim that his efforts to cover up her death and then pretend like nothing had happened in front of her father does clearly display some kind of sadistic, sociopathic tendencies. In a friend's own words, he showed no remorse.
Dude's
How
cuckoo for
deranged
Cocoa
do you have
Puffs.
to be to not show a single emotion? No doubt, Marc will be put on trial for her murder, but
Fuck
we
yeah.
just have to see if he is found guilty and
Oh,
how
he's
long of a
guilty.
sentence
He'll
he
be
will
found
receive.
guilty. He's
the
guilty
death
as shit.
penalty
Look
is
at his
forbidden
face.
in Switzerland, but murder does carry a minimum sentence of 10 years and up to life imprisonment. However, even life imprisonment carries a parole period of only 15 years, so sadly, there is a
So either he's going to get 10 years or 15 years. Because 9 times out of 10, he'll go in there, he'll be scared shitless, he'll be getting in the butt. He ain't going to have the energy to do shit. He ain't going to be out there causing trouble and mischief and shit. So he'll probably get out either because he was sentenced to 10 years or because he hit his 15-year parole. Man, fuck this dude. Hope they put in his boom hole so much that his head explodes. Piece of shit.
chance that Marc could return to society.
I hope he
one
never
day.
does.
To add to the pain that Kristina's family must now endure, there is an ongoing custody battle over who will look after her children now that she is dead. Her parents and sister are currently working together to provide them with a safe, warm, and loving home. But sadly,
yeah.
Marc's own sister is now trying to claim custody. She also claims that Kristina's parents are simply too old to take care of them. This has now become quite a large legal battle, but Marc's sister is sadly supported by her and Marc's millionaire father and his fellow lawyers. So this is not an easy fight for Kristina's family. Honestly,
Damn.
I would argue that Marc's disgusting actions should waver his family's rights away. Put quite simply, Kristina's children deserve to be in
I see where he's coming from, but also, like, how you gonna blame the parents and the sister and everything else for the dude growing up to be a shit? Like, you can control your kids barely until they turn 18. They'll have to, most parents can't even control their kids before they're 18, let alone after they're fucking 18. You can't hold what that motherfucker did or would ever. You cannot hold what that motherfucker did or would ever do against his fucking parents. I am so tired of always seeing, well, this person did this person did this. It's the parents' fault. You know, sometimes the parents don't know shit either. I'm not saying the kid should go with his parents. I mean, the dude is a murderer. I get that. He had to come by it somehow, some way. Maybe his dad's a murderer. Maybe that's, being as rich as he is, that's why he's never been caught. Bruce Wayne, that shit, homie. Got you. And I can see where the being old can play a hand in the kids going with the parents over on the other side. Man, this is all just a tangled bunch of shit.
a home where the narrative of their freak of a father will not be changed. And on the other side of it, Kristina's family has absolutely endured enough pain and hardship. They don't deserve to lose their grandchildren on top of their daughter. But focusing back on Kristina, she was a strong, confident, and exceptional young woman. She always had new ideas and
Then let's cut the kids in half and give half of to one, half to the other. Fuck it. I don't know. What would you do in that situation? I mean, even if the other grandparents got rights, would they just keep them away from the other grandparents and family? Like, how would that work? Because after this, that family is never going to be the same. Like, there's never going to be a time where it's like, oh yeah, we can just, we'll have a joint custody or visitations or anything like that. No, this is going to be some shit stuff, and only people that are going to suffer is those poor fucking kids. My God, the world is full of adults that act dumber than most children out there, and the only people who fucking end up suffering is the fucking children of the fucking idiots. Man, that's a lot.
Was full of energy and was always there for her friends and family and would always listen. Despite her big boss energy, she was a compassionate and loving mother who devoted her time to her children. Children who must now grow up without an amazing mother by their side. 8 months after her death, their home is now entirely abandoned. Furniture may remain within its 4 walls, but the house itself is empty and dark. Numerous flower tributes lie outside of the front door, and the stairs leading up to the property are completely overgrown with weeds, as are the pavement slabs in the back garden, where a barbecue and children's toys still remain to this day. Kristina's grave features various flowers, a framed picture, 2 crosses, small heartstones, and drawings by her daughters. It is very clear that many people desperately miss her to this day. Just a small thing that I'd like to share as it resonates with my thoughts. But in an interview, Kristina's friend wants people to know that just because a relationship looks perfect on the outside does not mean that it is. You have to be vigilant.
You never know what's going on behind closed doors, bro.
Others too.
My grandma used to say it all the time.
At least for now, that is where our story ends. But quite honestly, I'm very...
People always act a certain way out in public and around other people, but you don't ever know what goes on behind closed doors. Unless you got hidden cameras in there, then you're the one that people need to be scared of. All right. Thank you, Adrian, for having me, man. This was a good story. Hopefully we get an update and we see what all's going on with it. Fingers crossed. All right. If y'all enjoyed today's video as much as I did, please go down there, leave a thumbs up. It really does help the channel grow tremendously. While you're down there, if you want, go on over and slap the subscribe button, because that helps out pretty fucking good too. And if you want to know when all the crazy shit happens, ding that bell. Turn on all post notifications. As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Damn, Adrian, those poor kids, they're going to have a shit life from here on out because their dad was a fucking idiot. The kids always suffer.